I'm really hoping to inspire you on how your intuition can really help you within your career. And the reason that I wanted to focus on this topic today, because your intuition can help you across the board in life. Whenever we specifically focus on career, we live in a world where we want to track the numbers, we want to see the statistics. Well, how did you come to that decision? And actually, our intuition doesn't always allow us to be able to communicate that. Whenever I think back on my corporate career, because now I am a psychic medium, and I know what you're thinking, oh, it's easy for me to talk about intuition whenever I have this spiritual gift. I wasn't always aware of my spiritual gift. It's something that I developed late into my 30s. I was in my mid 30s, really, whenever I first started on this path. And I had a whole career in corporate where I didn't know that I had spiritual gifts, but I knew that I had an intuition that I was tuned into. And that is really what kept me on the right path. Whenever I listened to my intuition, that's whenever I knew that I was heading in the right direction. Whenever we look at the corporate world now, and even just the working world in general, it doesn't have to be the corporate world. You could be working in an office for a multinational global company. You could be running the company, or you could be working on a factory floor. It really doesn't matter. Your intuition it is what will keep you successful and keep you out of harm's way and keep you from the firing line. Now, whenever I think back to even whenever I was a kid at school, and now that my daughter is in school, she's 10 years old, the school system is very, very similar where they want kids to show they're working out. We're very logic driven. We focus on science, we focus on maths. We don't really encourage people to lean into their intuition, and it's a bit of a lost art, in my opinion. And actually, your intuition, it is your built in GPS. It is a satellite navigation system that is going to keep you on the right track throughout your life. It's not just in career, although I'm focusing on career with this. It will help you out across the board in your life. So it is well worth to get in tune with that and to encourage others to get in tune with it as well. It's all fine and well sitting in the boardroom and saying, okay, well, that's great. David and Jessica and Michael, I love the numbers. What does your gut tell you? Let's focus on the intuition and see what it can actually bring to the table as well. Now, your intuition, if you keep in tune with it and you follow it, it will lead you to success. It will keep you on the right track to get you into a position where you are successful whenever you're trusting your gut. Whenever I was it was my very first sort of corporate job actually, and I was a recruiter. I went into an organization working as a recruiter and a headhunter, and I actually had a very successful career as that. And I had my own firm for a number of years as well. And I had a branch manager, and the setup that we actually had within the team, every decision of who would have went out for interview had to go through that manager, and he could never understand really how I would have matched the person up with the job. We had a number of clients because we were headhunting as well as doing sort of traditional agency recruitment. We had a number of clients that would have said, okay, well, these are the time slots that I'm free. I've got four interview slots there. Give me your best people. And we would have went and actually done the initial screening and put those interviews in position. And there was a number of times, but one time in specific that I can really recall where my boss was telling me, no, Gemma, you cannot put that person in there, not right. And I knew that they were the person that was going to get to the job. And I couldn't really explain it other than this feeling. I just had this gut feeling that this person was right. I knew the client, I knew the job spec, I knew the candidate, and they were a perfect match. So in this particular instance, my boss actually had went off. I think he was actually at a management meeting, and we had one of the candidates drop out very last minute that were scheduled for one of these interview slots. And of course, I seen my opportunity. I slotted my person in, and they got the job. Now, this happened on 3 or 4 occasions, and the area manager, like the sort of the hierarchy, had actually said to my boss, look, why are you not listening to her? She clearly knows the candidates. Why is it that you're not listening to her? Now, my work rate was actually less than other people. So I maybe wouldn't have made as many cold calls. I wouldn't have had as many vacancies to work on. I maybe wouldn't have interviewed as many candidates as other people. But I actually was more efficient than everybody else. And whenever we sat down as an exercise in the whole office to actually figure out why my efficiencies were so good in comparison to my output being less than everyone else. And it was really down to my intuition, because I really honed my intuition and I used it alongside my interview skills and the hard matching that we would have done for those positions. So it really goes to show that if you fine tune your intuition and you use it alongside the other skills that are really heavily focused on within the working world and really encouraged, that will stand you in good stead. That will help you make the right decision. It will help you make the right hires. It will help you to make the right investments. Use your intuition. It is there for a reason. Now, it will also be your safety net, and it has kept me out of a couple of sticky positions. And there's actually one of them that is incredibly profound for me. I was working for an organization. I had left recruitment. I was working in the tech industry, and I was working for an organization at the time that I was the only female in the team. And whilst that was fine in itself, it did pose some challenges. Completely other story, different talk. I'll pick that up on another one. I really had still a fairly well fine-tuned intuition. I still wasn't aware that I had any spiritual gifts at that stage. This is really just my intuition that I'd had, throughout my whole life, when I just would have known things, or I had little gut feelings about things. Likewise, I am sure that you will have had the same. Now, we used to travel as part of our role here, and I had a really restless night one day. We were away as a team, and I just couldn't figure out why I felt so anxious. I didn't sleep very well. In fact, I tossed and turned for the majority of the night. And I woke up in the morning and I just had this light bulb went off in my head, just this thought that I was going to lose my job that day. Now, I wasn't at home. The only phone, the only cell that I had belonged to the company. I was due to fly back that evening. But I was so sure that I was going to lose my job, and nothing had happened that would have caused that. But I had this thought that this was happening. And I remember I phoned my husband at the time and I explained to him, look, I feel like I'm going to lose my job today. I don't have, another phone, so they may take it off me. I may not have a way to communicate with you. I am due to fly back tonight. I don't know if I'll be able to get an earlier flight. And I actually phoned someone it was a contact that I actually had who worked in an HR department. And I phoned her and I said to her, like, I really think that this is happening. And she was like, don't be silly. I really wanted some advice from her on like what I should do or what should happen in that situation, because it wasn't really something that was particularly familiar to me to be in that situation. And she just, she said, Jeff, don't be so ridiculous. Like, you're overthinking this. There's nothing is going to happen. Like, your job is going to be fine. And anyway, I got ready, had breakfast in the hotel. In fact, I don't even think I ate much that morning because I still would have been feeling quite anxious. And I went into the office that we were working at that time, and I was making a coffee at the coffee machine. And one of the senior members of the team came over and he said, "Oh, can we have a quick word?" And I was brought into the office, and there was somebody on a Zoom, like on a remote video conferencing call, and plus a couple of people around the table. And this was exactly what was happening. I had lost my job, and it was just such a shocker. For one thing, that had happened, but really the big shock was that I was right, that my intuition had told me that something was up. And I was able to trust it and almost prepare myself emotionally for that event. Now, if that had happened and I hadn't been forewarned by my intuition, I hadn't really felt that, feeling come in, I actually would have been very off guard, and I probably would have cried, and I probably would have left feeling a bit embarrassed that I had let my emotions get the better of me. It would have just been such a shock, and it really would have blindsided me. So I was pleased that I had that moment, even though I wasn't in a position where they were able to change their decision. I was still pleased that I'd had that advanced warning to prepare myself and almost keep myself composed in that moment. So your intuition will tell you when things are going to happen. It will warn you of different things that maybe would make you feel uncomfortable or would bring on emotions or would put you in a difficult position in order for you to prepare yourself. It couldn't have prevented it happen at that stage, but it helped me prepare for that conversation. Likewise, it'll also really ensure that you're on the right path. Whenever I think to myself of all of the turns, I want to say the wrong turns in life, but really there's no such thing as a wrong turn because we always have something that we can learn from in that moment. But whenever I think of all of the turns that I've taken in life where I maybe should have listened to my intuition a little bit clearly, or I should have tuned in and leaned into that feeling just a little bit more, it's amazing how we can start to figure out how our life could have turned out a little bit differently. Not that it would have been necessarily better, because all paths will lead us to the right path, but some paths will be easier than others. We can lead an easier life and we can have easier paths in life when we learn the lessons that we need to learn. If you're constantly coming up against challenges and hard parts in your path, then there are lessons that you need to learn, and it really calls for some self-evaluation. So if you are finding that pattern in your life, definitely take a load off and just sit and think, what is the pattern here? What can I be learning that I'm not learning? Because that will really stand you in good stead. I actually had a Reiki session. Whenever I had cancer back in 2000, and I think it was like 2017, 2018, I had breast cancer. I was in the corporate world and I'd had my operation, and I couldn't begin my treatment until my wound had healed. And it was on this side. That's why I'm using my hands here. So I couldn't have my treatment for my cancer until my wound had healed, and my wound wasn't healing. And this was going on for months and months. Someone had suggested to me that I go for Reiki. And I was a bit like, oh, just somebody hovering their hands over an energy. I'm not sure. It's a bit woo-woo. I thought, well, I'll go along and I'll see. I hadn't really been on a spiritual path by that stage. So I thought, well, let's go along. Let's get involved. Let's see what you can do and see if it makes a difference. It was a very relaxing experience for a start. It was quite nice to just experience that. But I cried. Towards the end, I cried. This release was just coming and the tears were flowing and I couldn't stop them. And this is a good thing. Whenever we have moments like that, as embarrassing as it might be for us, it's a really good thing to let the tears flow, because it is like a release for the body, an energetic release. On my way home, I cried. I cried nonstop. The tissues were, so I cried, and I had this thought on the way home that I would love to be a life coach. That was really the path. I had this realization, and I'd known for a while that I wasn't really happy on the path that I was on, and I wanted to be a life coach. And of course, I had that epiphany in that moment. I still cried. I continued to cry for, I think, near enough 24 hours. So I had a very, very big energy release that actually came there, which was brilliant. So, of course, with that epiphany, what did I do? I brushed it under the carpet and I ignored it, didn't I? Continued on as normal. Thought to myself, well, no, because I don't want to give up my car. How would I be able to afford my house? I was a single parent at this time, going through cancer, and all I'm thinking about is my nice car and my home and my lifestyle. How can I maintain that? No, Gemma, don't be silly. You cannot be a life coach. You cannot start again. You cannot go off on a new path. So I brushed all of that under the carpet until it really started to bubble up again, months later. And I had I think just all of these different epiphanies. I had a dark night of the soul. I had a full-blown spiritual awakening. And it was really in that moment that I realized, okay, Gemma, you should have changed whenever you first had the thought. That would have been the easier option, to make the change then, to start putting the building blocks into position, because I realized in that moment that the path that I had been on wasn't sustainable. I needed to be on something where I was serving a purpose. I needed to be on a path where I did feel fulfillment. And my corporate career had done that for me for a very long time. But as we grow and we evolve as people, it just stands to sense that actually that won't always be the case. Our desires will change. We will change. We will need a different structure. We will need to be doing something different with our lives. So if you're finding yourself on that path as well, don't be brushing it under the carpet. If I had listened to my to my heart and my tears and that thought that I had in my head, it would have been a much easier transition for me, because I would have almost have been preparing and putting the building blocks in position in order to take that step, rather than the universe thinking, right, we're going to slap her around a bit now. It's time to pull the rug out from under her feet, because I didn't listen to my intuition. And that is the challenge with intuition. It will ensure you're on the right path. It will keep you heading in the right direction. It will keep you out of harm's way, but not if you do not listen to it. It is so important for us to really listen to that intuition as a human, as a soul being, as a spiritual being having a human experience. Our intuition is really the cornerstone of our experience here on earth. We are spiritual beings, regardless of whether you really believe in that or not. We are spiritual beings. We are here having a human experience. So with being human, we have the touch, we have the taste, we have the hearing, we have the sight, but we also have our intuition. And that is what really will keep us abreast of all of those things that we cannot see and that we cannot hear. I talk a lot about rejection being redirection. And I don't know if you believe in God or what your belief system is, but whenever I think to a higher power, I think to God, it's like he has heard things that you haven't been aware of. He has seen the things that you haven't seen. And he is protecting you by sending you off in a different direction. And that is brilliant that we can experience those rejections and that redirection. But actually, whenever we tune into our intuition, it gives us the ability to take those turns by ourselves. It gives us the ability to avoid that rejection or avoid that redirection, because we have listened to our own guidance system that comes from a higher power that is trying to keep us on the straight and narrow. So use your intuition. Use it within your career. Use it within your decision making. If you're not confident about what your intuition is telling you, you don't know if it's sharp, you don't really want to rely on it because you don't know if it's accurate, start to test yourself with it. Keep a journal. Try and work out, okay, so how accurate is this? Is this anxiety? Is this intuition? Is this ego? Is it intuition? And start to analyze it. Get closer to yourself. Meditate. It is so worth doing all of those things, because honestly, your intuition is what is going to make you into the badass business person that you want to be. It's going to help you create the empire that you might want to create. It is going to help you attract the money that you want to attract into your life. It is going to help you get on the right path if you're not sure where you want to be. Your intuition is the sharpest tool within your toolbox. We just need to acknowledge it. Sometimes give it a little polish, give it a little sharpen, but it is there and it will guide you and it will help keep you on the right path. I hope that you have enjoyed that. I do have a group community. If you would love to be a part of that, if you're wanting to focus on being your best version and tuning in to your spiritual gifts and your intuition, I would love to see you there. There is more information about it on my website. It is gemmalonsdale.guru. It has been an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. Don't forget to hit subscribe or follow me, depending on obviously where you're watching this. And I love to be here, and I will definitely bring more content as well through for you to enjoy.